Today I'm going to talk about recency of practice. So, for those who know me, I'm Shaima. I'm working as an RMO here in Australia. And there is a big topic here in Australia, which is the recency of practice and having a gap in your practice. So, we will explain what that does mean and what are the options for us to secure a recency of practice. So, recency of practice means that you have to be actively working to be considered for registration and for jobs as well. So basically, it's not a big requirement. So you need 4 weeks of full-time work in 1 year. So one registration period is 1 year, or you need 12 weeks, which is 3 months within 3 years, right? So and that has to be in your home country. So once you come, you do your AMC1 and then you apply for jobs. And then after getting a job offered, you need to apply for your registration. So in your registration, they will ask you if you comply and if you fulfill the requirements of recency of practice, which means how much gap do you have. So if you have more than 1 year gap and you have not worked at least for 4 weeks in 1 year, that will be like a gap, a considerable gap. And if in the last 3 years you have not worked for 3 months, that will be also a gap. Having a more than a 3 years gap makes things very difficult. Makes it difficult to find job and makes it also difficult to get your registration. Like even if you get a job offer with a gap, there will be some registration issues as well. So we will talk about how do we overcome this. So this is the form that you do for your registration. Now it's an online questionnaire, but before we used to have a form. So they ask you, have you previously practiced medicine for more than 2 years? So in my case, I did not have 2 years of experience. I had less, so I said no. And then the next question is, have you practiced within the last 12 months? So yes, I was, my gap was like 6, 7 months. So I was like, yes. And I did not have to attach anything. That was enough. But if you have not practiced within the last 12 months, you need to commence to practice under supervision in a training position, and you have to give a details of supervised training position. This is not a big issue. This is the hospital will give it to you. So 1 month gap, 12 months gap is not a big issue because the hospital will provide you the supervised training position and it's okay. So for limited registration, you get that. So uh, to be honest, 1 year gap is not that much. You still can secure jobs and get your registration. But then here come the next question. How long have you been absent from practice? So if it is less than 1 year, if you see, so it's not an issue. Between 1 to 3 years, you just have to give CPD hours, so CPD activities of courses that you have done. So when I did my AMC1, I did the emergency focus course and they gave me 50 CPD hours. And no, sorry, they gave me 80. So for 1 year, you need 50. For each year of gap, if you have 1 or 3, you need 50 per year. So I did not have 1 year gap either, but I had that CPD. So the ways of getting CPD is by doing AMC1 courses, and then there are some online that you can Google and get them. I don't have that many information about them at the moment, but there are a lot of courses that give you CPD hours. The issue come here. When you have more than 3 years gap, first of all, it will be hard to secure a job. We are talking about this questionnaire once you secure the job. If you are lucky to secure a job with more than 3 year gaps, that some people have been lucky too, that's not impossible. So if you are lucky to secure a job with more than 3 years gap, you have to provide what we call a re-entry to practice plan. So what does that mean? So a re-entry to practice, plan is basically a document where your hospital speak about what's your plan for re-entry to practice to be a safe doctor. So you have to see the agreements between your supervisor, you have any gaps if you have, what's the training, education requirement, what's the goals, what's the expected outcomes. So this is like a document that your hospital will help you providing and writing, and you have to give it within your registration. The issue is not all the hospitals are open to give you this, okay? And many hospitals will not hire you if you are more than 3 years gap because it becomes like extra documents for them. But just want to say it is possible to get a job with more than 3 years gap. And then in some hospitals who are like really desperate, really need the doctor, they would provide them the re-entry plan. And that's a way to your registration in Australia. So what options do you have if you have a gap and you're not able to get a job? So one of the options that a lot of people do is go back to their home countries for recency. So what they go is they go back to their home countries, they work for 3 months, and that will cover them for 3 years. Okay, so they have 3 months, they practice for 3 months, and that covers you for 3 years of your recency, and that avoids you to have a longer gap. Sometimes some observerships can offer you residency and count as recency. So recency of practice is mostly working as a doctor. So some observerships do cover that. The one that I'm aware of that cover for gaps is the MePrep Monash Health, but it's very expensive. It's around 10K, $10,000. And then it's only for PR and citizens in Australia. So if you are someone who came to Australia like long back and has a PR or a citizen, you can apply to the MePrep Monash and you have a big gap, so that covers you from your gap. The other option is you can start as an intern position, because when you start as an intern, you are not required to have prior experience, so that will be okay. I made another video about how to get an intern position in Australia. It is possible for IMGs to get intern positions, so either through the campaigns or either through the private stream health applications. I have a very separate video explaining the whole thing about intern position. And of course, the last option is the one I was talking about, which is providing a re-entry to practice plan. And that's something the hospital has to be supportive and happy to give you the re-entry practice plan. Which hospital would provide? I don't know. It depends. If they hire you for a job, most likely they will give it to you. Because as I say, if you already have 3 years of gap, it's very more challenging to get a job. But if you have been hired even despite having that 3 years of gap, then there is a high chance that the same hospital will provide you a re-entry plan and will support you to get your registration. So the whole issue is the job, getting the job. Let's talk about what I would recommend to everyone. So try to avoid long gaps, guys. I know life can be so unpredictable and people have different situations. And unfortunately, some people have to leave their country because of wars, because of political issues and not able to practice and cannot go back to their countries, and it's really understandable. But if you are in a situation where you can stay in your country until you secure a job in Australia, I would recommend that. So stay, keep practicing in your home country. Recently, like in the last 2 to 3 months, I've seen an Indian doctor getting a job from India only with AMC1. And when I asked her about what do you think that helped you, and she said, recency of practice. I've been practicing for the last 2 years and I didn't stop. I also know an RMO from Pakistan who got a job only with AMC1 while being in Pakistan. And I asked him, like, what do you think helped you in getting that job? And he was like, basically just continue practicing. And he was already in his training in Pakistan. So that really looks good because they need doctors who are actively working, who know what they're doing. So if you're in a position that you can do that, that's really recommendable. So keep practicing in your home country. And if not, and you already here in Australia and you're already having your gap and you cannot go back to do process of practice, the other options that you can do is apply for observerships and intern positions. So observership, there are paid ones that are super expensive. So we got the MePrep for Monash. We got the Austin, which is also $5,000. We got in Launceston Hospital, one that is also $10,000. And then we got one in Townsville, in Queensland, that also is like around 7,000, 8,000. So you have to pay them. And then I think there is something also in New South Wales. So this is a very controversial topic. Some people say observership will not cover you for recency. I'm 100% sure that MePrep from Monash does cover you because I asked them directly and they said yes, but it's only open for PR and citizens and it's a $10,000 program. Other thing you can do is try to apply for intern positions, and I have seen people secure intern positions with CAP. So it's a very good entry way to the system. And then also connect with people who have secured job despite gap. Ask them which hospital they have secured, what position. It's most likely intern positions. What document they needed to provide. Getting in any of the observership will also have increase your chances of getting a job. The other thing is try not to limit yourself to a single state. Apply everywhere in Australia. And very, very importantly, work on your CV and cover letters. People are applying with very poor CVs and very poor cover letters. Even if you apply with a poor cover letter for 300 years, you will not get a job. So make a very specific cover letter for each hospital. Talk well about the hospital. Talk why you want to work in that hospital. Tell them your long-term plans with that hospital. I know it's very exhausting and time consuming to do a cover letter for each hospital, but it is the way to go. Um, so yeah, that would be my main advice for people who are trying to get into the system and have a long gap. There are cases of people who have got a job with 7 years gaps, 10-year gaps, 16-year gaps, and there is no secret, to be honest. It's just applying consistently, it's trying to get into observerships. It's going back to your country and do recency. I know people who have done that, gone back to their country, they were recency that come back to Australia to help them secure a job. It's Every story is different. There is no black white one finding jobs in Australia. People think, oh, those who have jobs don't want to share their secrets. The reality is there is no secret. It's just pure applying everywhere, working on your cover letter, working your CV, and apply, apply, apply until you get shortlisted for an interview. Uh, Always try to contact with the workforce, send them an email. I know as well someone with a big gap who got a job by going to the hospital and giving the CV and talking to the head of the department of that department where she wanted to work. And she texted me the other day. She's like, I really recommend to all your followers to go personally to the hospital and talk to the workforce. Unfortunately, some people tried to do that and they were like, oh, you cannot come to the hospital, you should apply online. So, as I say, see, it's not black and white. Some of them got jobs by going personally to the hospital. Some of them were really refused to take even their CV because they didn't want to take any personal CVs and they said, oh, just apply online. So, yeah, when you talk to people who have jobs, they will share similar experiences. Like, it's not a magic recipe that work can give you a job. It's a very, very combination of a lot of factors, including luck. So the less gap you have, the better. If you're passing AMC2, better. If you apply all over Australia, is better. Everything increases a little bit your chance. If you have a good CV and cover letter, of course, it's a big, big game changer, I would say. If you have a bad CV, even if you have no gaps, I mean, AMC2, great experience and your CV does not reflect that nicely, you will not get a job. So I think having a CV and a cover letter is very, very important. And I do have videos about CVs and cover letter that you guys can watch as well. So that's everything for today. I hope that been a bit helpful in providing a plan if you have a gap. So let's say I have a 5 years gap. What will be my plan? First one, I will try to go back to my home country. If I cannot, I will be crazy looking for observerships and emailing all the hospitals to get an observership to get into the system. I would be applying for all the intern positions through the campaigns and the private stream. And I will be working on my CV and cover letter and try to connect in with everyone who got a job despite having gap because those people exist over there. So that's all the plan. You have to do it all. And of course, at the same time, keep preparing for AMC2 if you don't have AMC2 as well, because that really helps you to get into the system as well. So thank you today. Don't forget to subscribe and more videos are coming soon. Thank you so much.